That's Not a Sword by Katy Haye. That is not a sword. No, Betta mumbled her agreement to the floor. She didn't especially want to see the expression on Darn's face. The long-suffering exasperation in his tone was hard enough to listen to. What exactly would you describe it as? Darn continued. She wasn't looking, but Betta could picture her master turning the item in question in surprisingly delicate fingertips as he examined his apprentice's creation from all angles. Clearing her throat, she murmured, "A bowl?" She frowned at her timidity and tried again. "A bowl." "A bowl?" Darn's tone held only the faintest thread of disbelief, but it was clear as day to Betta. "Yes," she insisted, forcing a confidence she didn't feel into her tone. "Or perhaps a cup?" Damnation, there she went again, asking instead of telling. "Betta." Darn's tone was gentle, but as steady as the steel he worked so confidently. A tiny thud sounded as he set the cup down on the workbench. Betta was startled into looking at him, then at her latest creation. The cup had a flared base, tapering to a slim stem, on which was set a generously sized bulb. Its surface was polished to a gorgeous sheen iron rarely achieved, and the intricate decoration that chased across the surface. Now she'd looked at it, Betta found it hard to look away. "It's a grail," Darn sighed. "You've made a grail, and those are runes. Is it a spell?" "I don't know," she whispered. "You don't know?" Darn left the question hanging. He crossed solid arms across his barreled chest. "This happens every time I leave you to your own devices." Heat crept into Betta's face. That was unfair. Twice. It had happened twice now. She only wished she could be confident it would never happen again. "I suppose someone will be along to collect it at full moon." Darn cleared his throat. "Do you remember what happened last time?" The heat in her face increased. "I didn't do it on purpose," she protested. "I didn't do anything, really." "No, and I'm sure that's a big consolation to everyone in town who had to rebury their relations at Michaelmas." "I didn't raise the zombies." Betta's heat spilled out through her mouth. "I wouldn't even know how." "And we have to suppose that's a good thing," Darn said dryly. "It was a good thing a necromancer was passing through," Betta pointed out, remembering the pale magic wielder who'd arrived at just the right moment to deal with the problem. "Passing through? To pick up the talisman you'd made?" "I didn't do it on purpose," she repeated stubbornly. She didn't know whether that made it all better or worse. She'd started working the steel, only to come to several hours later with the talisman on the anvil in front of her, in place of the sword she'd planned to begin. "You know," Darn said, "you're a competent blacksmith. You could make a good business from that." "No," Betta blurted. She bit her lip to hold back an opinion that would sound mean-spirited if spoken aloud. Yes, it was a fine and worthy calling to provide a village or town with the nails and hinges and sickles and shovels that it needed. But Betta wanted more than that. She wanted to be famed, and you didn't get that from hinges. She eyed the grail sourly. Right now she looked set to become famous for all the wrong reasons. "I want to be a swordsmith," she told her master firmly. Darn's lips twitched, and Betta knew she was past the worst. "If you want to be a swordsmith, you will have to make a sword, preferably more than one." "Sure," Betta ventured a smile. "I'll get right on it." "That is a decent dagger." Darn took the blade from Betta's gloved hand and set it on the edge of his forefinger. "Nicely balanced." "Thanks." Betta threw off her gloves and scraped her hair back, gathering the strands that had struck to her sweaty forehead and tying the whole back at the nape of her neck. "I like the handle," Darn continued, his focus still on her prentice piece. "Elegant design." Betta had constructed the weapon from a single piece of steel, the hilt shaped to fit a hand, with spiralling decoration that doubled as a grip, so it didn't need leather or hemp to be added. She was reassured her master was happy with the end result. She was mostly pleased she'd managed to maintain her focus throughout, and ended with the item she'd intended to make. There had been no drifting off in the middle of heating the metal, only to find a random artifact waiting when she regained her senses. "I'm pleased with your work." Darn's hand settled on her shoulder, heavy and warm in a way that sent pleased pride slithering down her spine. Although I feel I should point out," a teasing note entered his tone. When she looked, his eyes were twinkling. "It's not a sword." "No," Betta took the blade back, polishing it so the steel gleamed. "But it's a step in the right direction, wouldn't you say?" Darn chuckled. "Yes, it's certainly that." "I'll start a sword tomorrow." No, full moon was tomorrow. Best not raise too many expectations. "The day after." "Good idea," Darn agreed, whistling as he turned back to his own work. The hoot of an owl broke the solitary stillness of night, making Betta jump. Of course it did. It was full moon. Anything would unsettle her tonight. She thumped her pillow and lay back down, wriggling deeper into her hay mattress. It was the waiting that was the worst thing, especially when she didn't know what she was waiting for. Who needed a grail? What for? And was it going to be better or worse than zombies? Betta shuddered at the idea anything could be worse than zombies. She pushed the covers back and levered upright. Impossible to sleep now she'd put the idea in her head that something more disturbing than the restless dead might be creeping around the town. Kneeling up, she peered out of the tiny window of her sleeping loft. No shuffling, reanimated corpses were immediately obvious, but from this angle it was unfortunately hard to be certain. Muttering under her breath, Betta shoved her feet into her boots, tugged a jerkin over her sleep shirt, and scrambled quietly down the ladder into the forge. Once she came to a stop, silence settled around her like a soft woolen blanket. It was warm inside the forge. It always was, the fire banked for the night but not fully out. So there was no good reason for the shiver that chilled down Betta's back, nor the whisper of cold air that raised the hairs on the back of her neck. A snort. She twisted on the spot, heart racing. When it was followed by a rattling snore, she sagged in relief. Just Darn, fast asleep in his box bed on the far side of the room. He was nothing to worry about. Betta crossed to the window, where the full moon's light spilled silver over the threshold. It gleamed on the shining surface of the grail, making the runes stand out more starkly than before. Picking up the artifact sent another shiver snaking down her spine. Betta's thumbs brushed across the scored marks. Were the runes a spell or just decoration? She wasn't sure she wanted to know. She had no recollection of making the marks, and that was rarely a good thing. Holding the grail securely, she turned towards the door. Her gaze snagged on the dagger on the workbench, and she snatched that up too. She hoped not to need it, but after the zombies it was probably wise to be ready for anything. Outside was cooler than the forge had been. Betta paused long enough to fasten her jerkin, ears pricked. No shuffling, no groans. She had no idea where to go, but she acted on instinct, turning her back to the cemetery and heading towards the mill pond, peaceful and shining in the moonlight. When she arrived, it wasn't as peaceful as she'd thought. The surface of the pond was ruffled by the restless air, while the trees that fringed the mill's boundary could be hiding almost anything. Betta squinted, the hand holding her dagger growing sweaty. A noise sounded behind her. Betta spun, dagger outheld. A pale, ethereal figure glided towards her at the edge of the water. "Begone, Wraith!" Betta called, pleased her voice didn't tremble. "Wraith?" Amusement rang in the replying voice. "Do I look ill? Or is it the light? I'm perfectly robust, I assure you." Betta's dagger dipped as the woman drew closer. The awareness that she'd been appallingly rude to a fellow human being made her cheeks burn. "No, I'm sorry." The woman drew nearer still. She was only a few years older than Betta, and... "You!" Her fingers tightened on the dagger. "Not again! Haven't our dead been disturbed enough?" "What?" The pale woman stopped, then laughed, a light tinkling sound, like stars falling to earth. "Oh, no, I'm not a necromancer. You may be thinking of my sister. She had some trouble hereabouts a few weeks ago." Betta blinked, looking more closely. Yes, despite the resemblance, this was a different woman to the one who'd dealt with their abruptly mobile dead. Eve spoke very highly of the talisman she got here. It made her job vastly easier. The pale woman's voice was once more amused. "Was it your work?" "Yes." A bright smile split the pale face. "And is that the grail I was hoping to find hereabouts?" "I don't know. Is it?" Betta bit her lip again, unpardonably rude. But in her defence, she was having a trying time. "I'm sorry. Just take it and go. We don't want any trouble." She held out the grail, and the woman took it in reverent fingers. She gave a sigh of admiration as her fingers traced the runes. Betta had to ask, "Are they a spell?" The woman looked up sharply. I thought you said you made it." "I did, but I don't remember the process. It just happened." A frown pinched pale brows, head tipped to one side. "What's your name?" "Betta. Betta Quilread." "You have a rare gift, Betta Quilread." Betta huffed, her lips twisting. "It's a troublesome gift," she said, putting it mildly for the sake of her audience. "We're in troublesome times," the woman replied. At Betta's blank look, she continued. "We're having trouble with giants at the northern border." She tapped a fingertip against the grail, making it ring. "This will help to turn the tide, the same way Eve's work helped us gather momentum." "Do we need to prepare for trouble?" "Oh no, not this far south." She smiled, eyes twinkling brighter than the stars. "At least, not so long as I'm gone by dawn." "Oh," Betta took a step back. "Don't let me stop you. Take the grail and go." The pale woman pouted. "I was joking. There's no need to be so eager to get rid of me." "I'm not." Betta's words were silenced by her innate honesty. "I don't want anything bad to happen to the town. The zombies were dreadful." "Poor Eve." The pale woman clicked her tongue. "No one's ever pleased to see her." "And I'm getting the blame," Betta added. "If anything else happens, my master might refuse to keep me on as his apprentice." She didn't expect a stranger's sympathy, but nor did she need to hold back, since she'd almost certainly never see this woman again. "And then I'll have to start a blacksmith's business elsewhere, and it'll be all nails and shovels, and I might die of boredom." "That would be a shocking waste of your talent," the woman agreed. "Is that your work too?" She nodded at the dagger Betta had almost forgotten she was still holding. "Yes." She squared her shoulders. "Yes, it is." "May I?" The pale woman eased the weapon from her fingers, balancing the blade on her palm and raising it to catch the moonlight. "It's a fine piece." "Thank you. That's the sort of work I want to do." A brow raised. "I'm training to be a swordsmith. Weapons that are also a work of art. If I can stop being distracted by—" her fingers fluttered— "other things." "You poor soul." The pale woman's face was cocked to one side, her direct gaze assessing her. It wasn't unkind, although it was a little intense. "Life rarely gives us what we want directly, does it?" she asked lightly. "I wanted to be a swineherd when I was a child. Ask Eve. She thinks it's hysterical." "And now you're a mage?" Betta still wasn't entirely sure of the identity of the woman she was talking to. She hadn't introduced herself, but they'd been talking long enough now it felt awkward to ask. "One of the Queen's mages," she stated, standing straighter and smoothing a hand down the front of her cloak. Betta felt a sudden, out-of-character desire to tease. "And that's better than being a wraith, is it?" The mage burst out laughing. She waggled a finger under Betta's nose, but she was smiling. "I like you, Betta Quilread." She slipped a hand inside her cloak. When it reappeared, she was holding a small purse. "I'd like to buy this dagger. I know someone who'll like it." Betta blinked. "Oh, it's just a practice piece." "I'd still like to buy it." She waggled the pouch. "Does it make you a swordsmith if someone buys a blade from you?" "I suppose." She cleared her throat and accepted the pouch. "Thank you." "Thank you." The mage slipped the dagger into one pocket of her cloak, and the grail into another. "It's been lovely talking, Betta Quilread, but I'd better head off. Those pesky giants won't wait." She gave a blinding smile. "Best of luck with the swordsmithing." She patted the pocket holding the blade. "I hope the fates will let you do more of that, and less things we mages will find useful." She strode into the woods without looking back. Betta threw a belated "Goodbye" at her back, waited until the woman was out of sight, then returned to the forge. Dan was pleased to wake and find no zombies nor other supernatural creatures swarming through the town. He was even happier when Betta showed him the purse, roaring with laughter and squeezing her shoulders to pull her against him. He kissed the top of her head. "Your first commission, first of many. Let's get on with the next, shall we?" "That is a fine-looking sword." Dan took the weapon from her, angling it to look along the blade, nodding in satisfaction at what he found. "Thank you." Betta scraped her hair off her face, fanning herself, and wishing, not for the first time, that she could also plunge headfirst into a bucket of water, the way they cooled the steel. "This really is excellent." Dan inspected the blade from every angle, then swung it experimentally a couple of times to test the balance. The steel whooshed as it cut the air. He was grinning when he looked up. "There isn't much more I need to teach you. A sound, serviceable blade, and a little of your own flair." His expression sobered. "It might be time for us to talk about you moving up from apprentice to journeyman." Betta's insides flipped over. Really? I wasn't expecting that. Wow. Darn grinned again. Let's talk it through tomorrow, shall we? Yeah. Fabulous. Darn walked out, whistling. Betta spent a few minutes admiring her handiwork. It was gorgeous. She'd been working hard, and since nothing untoward had happened in the past several months, her abilities had developed apace. Journeyman. She truly hadn't expected that so soon. She'd need to strike out on her own eventually, she knew that, but this could be a perfect interim step. Her hand stroked the blade carefully. The steel wasn't quite cold, still holding some of the forge's heat. It was smooth and beautiful. She was proud of herself. A good piece of work indeed. Betta, she startled when Dan spoke, are you still admiring that sword? Time to put everything away for the night. Betta frowned. Night? It was only just past. She blinked in surprise. It was almost dark outside. Her frown deepened. It had been barely afternoon when she'd finished the sword. She couldn't just have been standing there, staring at her handiwork for hours. Her stomach plunged when she saw marks down the fuller. They hadn't been there when she'd shown the sword to Dan earlier. Her fingers ached, and they were grey with steel filings. She swallowed, her mouth suddenly dry. Runes, just like those she'd inscribed on the Grail. Or perhaps nothing like that. Perhaps these ones were completely different, a new spell entirely. Unfortunately, she had no idea, because she couldn't remember carving them into the fuller of the sword. Just like when she'd made the talisman. And the Grail. Damnation! Everything had been going so well. She should have known it was too good to last. She glanced out of the window. The moon was just peeking over the horizon. The full moon. Well, of course it was. Life enjoyed its little jokes. She found a scabbard to protect the blade, scrubbed her hands clean, made small talk with Dan over dinner, then set off. She headed for the mill pond, since that was where she'd met the mage last time. Tonight, the Queen's mage was already waiting, sitting on a rock, ethereal in the moonlight, clad entirely in white. Despite the circumstances, Betta's lips twitched. If you don't want to be mistaken for a wraith, maybe try a little colour. And good evening to you too. Betta stopped a few steps away. I have something to show you. She drew the sword from its scabbard and held it upright in front of her face. The moment seemed to call for drama. Betta Quillreed! The pale woman's eyes shone as she stood, her tone awed. Well, haven't you come on? I think I've finished my apprenticeship today. What was it about the pale woman that prompted her to confidences? How momentous! The mage's eyes scanned her more keenly than they did the sword. Congratulations! Thank you, she sighed. I'm proud of this one. The mage stepped closer, head tilted, frowning. And you're sorry why? Betta lowered the sword, blade gleaming in the moonlight as it moved. I'm going to miss it, she said sorrowfully. Why so? Isn't this what you've come to collect? Betta was the confused one now. I came to offer you a job, actually. A job? The Queen is always looking for talented people. I suggested a new swordsmith. She wants to meet you. Betta blinked. It was too much to take in. She held the sword out. Don't you want this? I don't have much use for a sword. I mean, it's beautiful, don't get me wrong. But it's magical. The mage's frown deepened. She peered at the fuller of the sword, taking a sharp breath when she saw the runes. Betta, that's astonishing! Betta hummed, not quite disagreement, but definitely not agreeing. Truly, it's a sword and armour both. The Queen will probably give me a bonus for finding you. Please say you'll come. She knew she should think about it, but she immediately knew she wouldn't. Didn't she want to be famous? The mage was watching anxiously, breath short, eyes pleading. Betta's lips curved. On one condition. Anything. Tell me your name. My name? The pale mage blinked in disbelief, then threw back her head, laughing like stars falling. She sobered, looking straight into Betta's eyes. The rest of her was pale, but her eyes were the warmest brown. She stuck out a hand, eyes twinkling. My name is Ilsa Strongblood. Pleased to meet you. Betta slid her hand into Ilsa's waiting one. Warmth shivered through her, like dawn breaking and beckoning to a day filled with possibilities. Ilsa used their linked hands to tug Betta closer. The Queen's going to love you, Betta Quillreed. Maybe as much as I do. Thank you for listening. That was That's Not a Sword by Katy Haye.